On April 20th, 2025, Chattanooga's Medical Arts Building will turn 96 years old after opening to the public the same day in 1929. A recognizable landmark around the UTC and MLK neighborhoods, many older residents might have had their first doctor visits in this building. However, in the last 4 decades, it has taken on a drastic role change, and most people in Chattanooga don't know what this building's purpose was or why it was built instead of a city center. And why does it seem like this may be the building's last anniversary? Find out in today's video on the history and future of the Medical Arts Building. Our story begins in 1927, when a group of leading Chattanooga doctors banded together to solve a prevailing problem for their practices: parking. Most doctors practiced downtown in office buildings or the floors above commercial buildings, and patients who didn't live near their offices would have to drive downtown and search for parking. Downtown didn't have parking like we know it today, and most parking was done on the curb or in the few publicly open garages. Doctors during this time didn't have a large unified building dedicated to practicing medicine, like other cities were developing at the time. And it was the intentions of these leading doctors to solve the parking problem and the cramped quarters by building the city's own Medical Arts Building. The medical arts concept does not originate from Chattanooga. It was a nationally recognized term for a large modern building housing doctors' offices. So 5 doctors applied for a charter for the Chattanooga Medical Arts Corporation with a capital of $100,000 and were swiftly granted incorporation. Dr. Ernest White Patton was elected president of the corporation, and it was his responsibility to make sure Chattanooga got its own medical arts building. And with incorporation out of the way, it then came time to secure a location and additional funding for their medical arts building. And one property in particular grabbed the attention of the doctors: the Van Dyke property. Located in a densely packed neighborhood along Macaulay Avenue, this property fronted 100 feet on Macaulay with a depth of 290 feet. And another 100 feet of frontage on East 8th Street. The property was a desirable 4 blocks off of Georgia Avenue, allowing for plenty of space to erect a skyscraper and to provide ample parking. The property was also bordered by 2 major entities, with the Interstate Life and Accident Insurance Company directly to the west, and the First Presbyterian Church to the east. Negotiations quickly began with the owner, who happened to be Adolph Ox, former owner of the Chattanooga Times and the New York Times, who originally bought the property for the new Jewish Memorial Temple. However, plans changed and the temple ended up located at the intersection of Macaulay and Fort Wood Place, leaving the property at that time without a purpose. Negotiations ended successfully on September 3, 1927, when Ox decided to become an investor in the corporation, ending up investing $100,000 into the enterprise, ensuring the project would go forward with no further financial complications, especially since dozens of other doctors who wished to practice in the proposed building had up till that time subscribed to the company, bringing the total capital to an impressive $450,000. Renowned Chattanooga architect Reuben Harrison Hunt and his company were chosen as the building's architect, and an early concept illustration was released the following day after the negotiations ended. Chattanoogans could see what promises the doctors have made and could see that their idea is promising to bring a 10-story doctor's office building in the center of a prime residential area. The contract for constructing the skyscraper was awarded to Mark K. Wilson, who was extremely qualified and familiar with large construction projects. 3 years earlier, he completed the Hotel Patton expansion, which added a 10-story wing over an existing 2-story section of the building. Excavation and grading was well underway once the financing was finished, and in the first week of June 1928, actual construction was commenced. And under Wilson's supervision, the building was being put up at a breakneck speed, making schedules and breaking records in many aspects. On August 6th, the first floor was started, and the 10th floor was completed September 28th, using only 2 pouring forms. Wilson, extremely proud of his company's work, held a banquet a week later for his employees, along with contractors for the building and other prominent Chattanoogans as a celebration for the quick completion of the concrete structure. Excitement continued to grow as the building took on its finished appearance and was completed in only 8 months after starting in June. The magnificent building stood proud among the neighborhood, being the tallest building in the area. It soared to the sky with its Gothic spires and penthouse. The building was designed in a modified Gothic design with Art Deco elements mixed wonderfully together. The base of the building was surrounded by large slabs of granite, and the Macaulay exterior from the first to second floors were trimmed in terracotta, forming arched windows and spires. From the 3rd to 9th floors, it was finished in impervious light gray brick with the 10th story trimmed with large terracotta arches and spires that gave the building its iconic silhouette. The penthouse added an additional smaller floor housing some of the building's machinery, but was nonetheless fitted with brick and trimmed with terracotta spires, despite these features being over 100 feet above the street. Hunt and his architects made sure that the building would stand out aesthetically from every other skyscraper in town. The European influence could also be seen in the lobby of the building, with groin vault ceilings and original hanging lanterns. The floors in the lobby and shops were either mosaic tiles or terrazzo floors, with marble wainscoting on the walls. With the building completed in early 1929, it was time for the doctors to move in and prepare for the grand opening. The Medical Arts Building officially opened to the public from 4 to 10 p.m. on April 20th, 1929. Hundreds of citizens flocked to the building throughout the day and were given tours through the floors, inspecting the modern offices. Guests could now visit their physician, dentist, dermatologist, orthodontist, or optometrist in a modern skyscraper with every amenity they could imagine. An entire library dedicated to medical journals and textbooks was available to doctors in the building. Every doctor who leased a space before the building was constructed was advised by R.H. Hunt's company for how they wanted their office laid out, with every room arranged for the doctor's taste. All rooms had access to compressed air, hot and cold water, gas, along with sewer access. Offices were finished in walnut trim and furniture, with glass-top desks and mirrors in every office. Guests could also enjoy coffee at the Medical Arts Coffee Shop, or possibly get a haircut at the Medical Arts Barber Shop, and maybe stop at the soda fountain and buy medicine at the Medical Arts Pharmacy. The parking problem was positively solved with a little over 70% of the 29,000 square foot property being used for a surface lot. Months after opening, the Medical Arts Garage would be open on the property fronting 8th Street, that operated as a service station and repair shop. Also constructed by Mark K. Wilson, this concrete and brick structure was built after construction ended so as not to interfere with the tower construction. The building manager stated on opening day that the building was only 12% vacant and that doctors across the city were eagerly waiting on the wait list to get an office in the building. During the opening, a telegram was received by Dr. Patton from Adolph Ochs in New York City. A heartfelt message was delivered wishing Patton that his building was a confident step towards a developing Chattanooga, and he said, "I hope your investment will prove lucrative. You deserve it." And so from 1929 to 1978, the Medical Arts Building served as the principal example of doctors' offices in Chattanooga until the neighboring First Presbyterian Church bought the building in 1979 for additional space for church functions and to have additional property and parking. However, according to the church in 2025, the building from the get-go was never fully utilized, and over the decades, neglect started to take its toll on the building. It was announced in December 2024 that the First Presbyterian Church would tear down the Medical Arts Building and replace it with a modern 2-story structure. You can read the full explanation for the church's decision to tear down the building, but the primary reason comes down to cost. As explained in their letter to the church, the concrete foundation and columns in the basement have corroded, and many mechanical systems in the building need replacement. To completely repair and renovate the building, it would cost the church $14.5 million, while the architect for the church claims that the tower could be raised and a new building constructed for $12 million. So at this point, it seems that the church has not changed their mind despite public outcry. And it's videos like these that unfortunately have to document the end of an era in Chattanooga's history. Dozens of medical arts buildings across the nation have been razed, and Chattanooga is next on the list. Not to mention that this was one of R.H. Hunt's last major projects and his last skyscraper he designed in Chattanooga. So I encourage anyone watching this video to take a second, slow down, and stop to admire this building before it's too late. You may notice something that you've never noticed before, and leave with a greater architectural appreciation on something we may pass every day for work. Thank you to everyone who's watched all the way through to the end, and I want to give an especially big thanks to the wonderful people at Preserve Chattanooga who've helped me with providing the wonderful photos taken by Dana Moody you've seen in this video. And with that being said, I'll see you next time.